to say what she's saying in her own life? Who understands what's missing in what she's saying? Anybody?
I know I'm all mixed up.
You feel the same way about your kids?
But the thing that's stopping me from loving them is the hate.
The thing that stops you from loving them is the hate towards what?
God.
Men? Men?
I guess I've hated the men. I've hated my mother, my father, everybody. But also along with that, which I saw before, is that the way that my mother especially, raised me up, and the way they always attributed everything bad that happened to God. I hated God for all these bad things that happened.
So you can't love?
I thought it was his fault. Then later I found out that it was God's fault at all, that they were lying on him, and that he hadn't hated me at all. But I still can't stop.
When you found out that he didn't hate you at all and that you were deceived, did you have some more hate?
Yes.
See how complicated that gets?
Yeah, that's why
you think you could untangle that? Do I have to untangle it for you? Do I have to untangle that for you? Why don't you look at that now? Look at it. Look at it. Who feels what she feels? Is anybody who feels? You feel what she feels?
Well, I can go back to the question that you had about the First Lady. And I feel like I'm cheated because nobody loved me, and now I have to love others. You know?
So, you don't think it's fair? Why should you?
I don't think it's fair. No.
So you don't love others? But then where's it going to stop?
Well, you see, that's my problem, you know, that comes to me.
What have you learned What have you learned today? I told you love. Didn't I say, can I emphasize it again? There is no love in the parents. There is no love in any person, place or thing. When you get mature, when you become a mature man like you and me, mature ladies like you and thee, when you become mature, after looking for love in all the wrong places, or denying love because you've been denied love, and playing with people's brains, you know, getting some feelings out of rejecting everybody, getting some feelings out of rejection, getting some pleasure out of rejecting. When it really boils down to it is this: there is no love in anybody, neither can be. We cannot originate it. That the very best thing a good father or mother, mostly a good father, the very best thing that he can do is to make us realize there is no love, and that even his love is not his love. That his love is admonishing by not discouraging other loves. All loves. No, don't do that. No, don't get involved with this. Watch this person. Watch that. Watch your anger. Watch your emotions. Watch this girl. See, watch your temptation. Watch this person dangling a carrot. By doing his duty and teaching them about the ways of the world, motivated, all the while motivated by a love of the Father, knowing that this is not his son. Like my son is not my own son, and my daughter is not my own daughter. I am a trustee. I'm my father's son, and I'm a trustee. He's a little prince. I got to look after him until he finds out what his role is, see? And that's my job as regent. Or is it a sort of regent? Like watching over before the king gets to be a king, and talking to him and teaching him how to be that king, and bringing him to his proper role. And that's it. Now we have love that's not from one another, but from the same Father towards one another. That it doesn't make us dependent. We never encourage a bonding from across the space of our faces. But we act out a father's love for one another. So you see, I mean well to you. If I do you kindness, it's not to get you dependent on me. It's not to get you to see me in a good light. It's not any guilt I've made up for, to give you something. I couldn't give you love, so I give you material things, so you think I'm a good guy, not a bad guy. It hasn't got those qualities to it. As a matter of fact, I've given my kids nothing but everything. And you give your kids everything but nothing. You even give them a love that isn't love. You even got love, you even didn't get love from your mother or father. And you could have the opposite effect. You didn't get love, so you're going to make up your mind that you hate your mother or father for not loving you. And so what do? You make up your mind you're not going to be like the mother or father you hated. You don't want your children to hate you like you hated your mother. So you act extra loving to make them love you. But you've done something wrong again. Don't you see that by making them love you, you're drawing their attention, you're leading them away from true love? You're making them fail? You're making them see you in a light that is not so? Oh. It's not good for you, not good for them. There is no love. There's kindness, there's goodness, but what is this? It's not this emotional love. Get rid of this romantic, stupid, mushy bonding. You get emotionally involved with somebody and you're going to see the dark side of truth. Is that right or not? Anybody. Always be aloof. Always be objective. Thank you. Kind. Be kind when you can, with the motive of not having other people be kind back to you. You're not doing to get. You're not loving to be loved. Stand up for what you believe is right. Steer a person on the right path even though you'll be hated for it. Tell the truth even though you lose a friend. Why won't you tell the truth? Because you're afraid to lose some support. You're afraid to lose the love you're addicted to, which is a lie. Do you see that? The lie that supports the lie that you're okay. So you won't ever tell a person the truth because you have a certain kind of friend, and you'll never tell a person the truth. You won't lead them to the truth, because if you try to bring them to the truth, they'll hate you because they're using you just like you're using them. You can't bring them to the truth because if you brought them to the truth, they'd see you as you are. There wouldn't be no support. Men don't love their wives because if you love your wife, you'll discourage them for supporting your ego. You'll discourage them from being a liar. You need a liar to support your ego. Liars, men are liars. They're lie dependent, lie addicted. They need a lie in a woman. They lie with her and she lies to him. See? Men discourage. They discourage. They encourage a woman to love in a wrong way because of what's gone wrong with him. Needs that wrong love. See? And no wonder when they get that love, something changes them for the worse. And instead of seeing that they've encouraged that love and taught the woman to love in a wrong way, they blame her for everything that's gone wrong through his, encouraging her. He's taught her wrong. Who sees that clearly? There is no love in this world. There is no love. But when you realize there is no love, then you can understand. You can understand your unreasonable desire for love from your mother that you never got, from a grandfather you never got. You can see how unreasonable, because it's not there. It never was. What you had was an illusion. Your grandfather might have been kind. Maybe you've attached yourself to him in a wrong way. Maybe you have outgrown it over a period of time. Your love for your grandfather was immature, childish, infantile. But now you're not a child anymore. You're not a child anymore. Try to understand. You're not being denied anything. If anything, if you're denied your grandfather, great-grandfather's love. If you denied it, what does this mean, to be denied it? It wasn't anything anyway. It's because love is not there out there in the world at all. I have no love for you. Roy Masters has no love for you. What are you going to do? You want me to hold your hand all the time? Shall I be your presence? If I cease to exist, you cease to exist? Do you want me to be your God? Because that's what you're talking about in terms of that kind of love. So you've been yearning for something that really can't be delivered. If you got it, you'd be just as miserable. If you ever had that, there'd be something wrong with it. And if your grandfather would ever have loved you, lived long enough, he would have told you. And now I'm telling you. I'm telling you what your grandfather could have told you, but didn't get time to tell you. You see what I'm saying? You haven't been denied. You haven't. It isn't there. Look, it isn't hard to love a father who is good, to respect him, and never be far from truth that he's bringing you to. Is that fair? And so that's one kind of love, because you respect what is good, like you can with me. You come to good because you respect what's good, and you can't be a bad person inside yourself and respect what's good. You automatically get restored to it, even as you can't be a good person if you respect what's bad. You can't become one with it internally. Right? So, just as a father who is decent, good meaning godly, just as a father that you can see the father who loves you in the father who loves you, see, and come to the father with not too much difficulty. So that's good. But now say you have a bad father who does not do his job, and you're denied that love. He tempts you to hate him. Then there's a value too. Because even though you will suffer more this way, you will learn something about hating father. When you should forgive your father, then you will be a father. Then you will have the love of the father in you. Because you will have realized through all the things you suffer that everything is wrong with you is you hated your father. You hated his failing. And you were separated from the very love. I know your life is empty, and you look for love in all the wrong places. And then you find that love is not anywhere to be found, except to give up hate. And that's what your father would have taught you, if he had love for you. But he didn't, and you hated him, so you had to learn the hard way. Is that right or not? Yeah. Right. So, big deal. You learn it either way. Doesn't seem fair, eh? And you tell me it's not fair? If there are no rich men, how can there be rich men without poor men? If there are no givers, no takers. I have something to share with you. I have a truth to share. You appreciate it more. Look, you're going to appreciate truth more than me. You know why? Because I haven't suffered much. See? So how can I appreciate it? If you've gone through hell, and you're dying of cancer, and all your family's falling apart, and your legs are falling off, and your nose and ears are hanging loose, and you got a screw loose up there. All right, now, if, as you're about to die, someone you pray to God and say, God help me, or someone comes and tells you a little bit of truth, and suddenly you get better. Everything, your legs get screwed on right, your brains get straightened out, your cancer disappears. I mean, how much more appreciative will you be? How much more evidence you couldn't want than that there's a loving, forgiving God? I don't know that as much as you do. You've suffered. So who has forgiven much, loves much. Remember the story? I just give you the story of the man who there was a rich man, and there was some debtors, and one man owed $5 and the other man owed $500, and Jesus said, so the businessman forgave them both. Which one will love the businessman the most? The man that was forgiven $500, because forgiven much, who's forgiven much appreciates much. So if you've gone further astray because you never heard the truth, but you're also that much more appreciative, there's a greater sweetness. There's a greater understanding of error. You know how I've learned about error and evil? But I've never been there. I don't know what it's like to be a drunk. I don't know what it's like to be an alcoholic. I've picked everybody's brains clean. I've never been there. But you see, there's a value of being there because you really understand what it's like on that side. I have to wing it. I don't know what it's like, but I have a pretty educated guess. I'm almost taste it, but it isn't the same thing. People who have been there are far more sophisticated in expressing that view and would help others. They know all those intricate thought processes, and you can use it against the enemy, right? Yes?
What is love? I don't really recognize love. I don't really know what it is. So what is love from God? What does it feel like?
Doesn't feel like anything.
So how do you know when you start changing, when you feel?
You know, and you don't. You know when you found it, that you don't need it from anybody. You don't feel restless. You don't look. In other words, he says, how do you know when you found love? You find that everything looks like you don't really care for anything that much, and nothing's that important. I mean, you used to love to wash your car, get a good feeling out of it. And you used to love to wash your girlfriend and get a better feeling out of it. See what I mean?
That's like saying there's nothing. You know, I mean, intellectually, it's like there's nothing there.
There is nothing.
And that's what it sounds like, you know.
So you're saying, well, if there's nothing, what am I to live for, right?
Okay, that sounds proper.
Okay, I can't tell you. When you come to the other side, you see there's another value. And I can't tell you what it is. It is joy that goes beyond any words to express. I mean, you don't need anything from anybody. You're just a rich person. Just rich as you can be. It's better than the riches of money. Because the riches of money you can lose. Inflation can take it away. The moth will, and the worm will corrupt it. But this riches is a knowledge of eternal growing, eternal discovering. It's like being a scientist going to the North Pole or going to the Amazon and discovering new this and new that, and discovering a new this and a new that, and another wow, woo, wow. It goes, and everything falls into place. Your children are happy. You get a joy. You see the different kinds of pleasures. I get pleasure from seeing my children grow. And I get pleasure from seeing my son being a success in his business. I just get pleasure from it. I just watch it, and it's almost like I can, but that's love. I want to see him happy. But my happiness is just to see him happy, to help him to, but see, it's very, very metered and very, very precise. It's nothing, you know, if he fails, my happiness isn't dependent on it. I just show him what he did wrong. We cancel. Oh, I see, Dad, thanks very much. I teach him that it's just as much of a man to deal with failure. As a matter of fact, you become more of a man by learning to deal with failure, right, than being exhilarated by success. I said, don't be exhilarated by success, and you won't be affected by failure. I'm teaching him to hold his balance by learning not to be too excited when he makes $1 million, because he won't be downfallen if he loses $1 million.
Something came up the other day. I was thinking, I go, boy, that Roy Masters, he's going to get to heaven and he's going to have, you know, such a great time. And I was kind of jealous, but I
jealous? That's how you separate from heaven.
That's right, you know. And
why can't you be glad for me?
I know, and that's what's the funny thing. Like my dad, I really hated my dad, and you know, I'm glad my dad was a tyrant, because then I really discovered how great God is. And I didn't look for my dad now for love. I look to the Father. Now there's, you know, I can experience love to God. You know, I mean, it's.
You're not jealous of me anymore.
And now, yeah, because I don't look at you. I don't know. I see, you know, like you were saying, God comes through you. You know, and it's just totally detachment from you. You're not that important.
Now look at me, and see. Have you been into me while I've been talking to you today? Have you been so fascinated with me you almost became me? Or have I been walking around on the stage a little distant? I'm a little puppet outside your field of vision. You should be looking at me from a distance, like you're looking through a keyhole. Can you do that? Can you refocus your eyes on me just a little bit? See me standing here, I'm just a form. And you're looking out through your little eyes on this form, and you're not close to me at all. I'm a long way away, but you like what I'm saying, because I'm telling you, get out of me. And if you get out of me, get into him. That's where you are.
That's what I mean.
You see, you can't be both places. You can't be into me, because being into me is away from him, and being away from me is into him. Then he's into you. And then once you get, it's a no man's land for a little while. You feel a little lonely, but be patient. Don't keep rushing for picking up the phone and looking for the first bit of company that comes along. Bear the little pain. See, it's very lonely in there. Because the whole process of getting close to people is to get something out of them. But they can also get something out of you. You get something out of each other. In this exchange, you're eating each other's substance out.
Most people cater to the person they're working for, right?
Shouldn't.
If you're aloof, they don't like it.
Well,
right?
because they don't like it because you're not a slave. Most workers, most bosses don't want you to work for them. They want you a slave in their little hell. Yeah. And they will disturb you into being a little robot, a little wind-up toy. And they feel like a big potentate with a big fat cigar. They feel very important. Unless you make them feel important, but they have to destroy your integrity to do that. Now, how do you deal with that? Well, you pretend to do it. You're a fifth column. You can't survive in this world without being what they want you to be. But you don't have to be. But you cover it up as much as you can. You be polite, full of yes sir, no sir, all the rest of it, and you just give them the usual amenities, super polite, but somehow cover up the fact that you're still holding on to your integrity. And if you do better than anybody else as a result of them giving you a pep talk and motivating you and you produce more, let them think that it's their motivation that did it. You don't want to ever tell them the truth. Survive for a while. There's no harm. It's not dishonesty. After all, if you were a spy in Russia, you're not going to tell, oh, I'm from America. You're living in an alien planet.
We are.
It's all controlled by the wrong people. So just shut up for a while and don't resent them. And yes, sir, no, sir, I'll be happy to do it for you, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Pip, pip, all that sort. Retain your dignity. Can you do it? Don't let on. You people, more than any other group of people, must have their own businesses. And you more than other people are capable of having your own businesses because since you don't need the new coat, new shirt. So I've been wearing this for 5 years. Everybody's been here to... How many years have you been watching me do seminars? It's still the same suit. My $4 tie. Anyway, you more than anybody else can be expedient, thrifty, frugal. You'll find that since you don't need as much as everybody else, because those needs are not satisfied like everybody else is satisfied. You don't find happiness. You find happiness in being sensible and giving up. You find that happiness in denying yourself. So you don't buy the fur coat, whatever it is. You don't need it. You think twice. All of a sudden, your money starts to accumulate. But by the same token, because you're wise and you live by wisdom, one day you'll know how to spend that money. The same wisdom will show you how to spend it. Open the doors. You'll become rich. You'll have your own business. And you'll employ people, and then the world will take over the world. And except we'll be kind to them.
I should say that you own right business.
A dry cleaning business?
Right business.
Oh, the right business, of course. Look, I've told my wife, so you understand, now women are very unforgiving, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I've told her before that had I been put in a doghouse by the way most men are put in the doghouse by having their kids turned against them. I mean, she did all the whole bit, the whole Kashmir. And if that would have happened, and I would have been in the doghouse, she never would have accepted me. I mean, I would have been in the doghouse and the kids would have grown up spitting on me and hating me and the whole thing. And I wouldn't have had a chance. But it's different with us people because we're forgiving. I mean, I saved all my kids from my wife and she's sitting there all by herself and without any power. She's getting old and ugly. I still love her. There's nothing to do. We're getting old. Okay, but she's sitting there all by herself and say, come on, come on. See, if you would have done this to me, if I was in the same position, I'd been in the doghouse. You'd never forgive me, but I forgive all the things you ever did wrong to me. All of them. Come on, forget it. I've got the kids. They're safe and sound. Come on. You've tried me. I haven't been found wanting. The kids love their father. Okay, now I'll teach the kids not to love, they hate their mother. Isn't that nice? That couldn't have happened if it was her. So you see, I'm saying our guys, we're better than them, those guys in the same sense. They won't deserve a better world they live in, but the point is it's a better world. We're in charge of it. It's a better world in my house because I'm in charge of it and not her. See? Is anybody who doesn't like me talking about my wife this way? Come on now.
Why do you blame women for all that?
Do you hear me blaming women?
No. You blame the men.
I've always blamed the men, but some naughty women can't hear me. Yeah, you know, I'm giving the men a hard. They don't love the women properly. The women can't help being what they are if they're encouraged to be a whore for them, their husbands. Is that right? It's not their fault if the husbands teach them. If husbands are leaders and they teach their wives all the wrong tricks, well, how can you blame the women? But the problem of the home comes through the power the woman gets from being encouraged to be that way for the men. Men are not really kings; they're paupers. It's just an illusion. See, they teach the women to think that they're kings, and they support their egos, and the men deteriorate and eventually become the slaves of their dominating wives. But it's not the woman's fault. It's the man's fault. But the wickedness and the misery and suffering comes up through the portal of a woman. You know, the portal. She's the hole in space. She's the portal in space where the horror comes up. See, she's the gateway between hell and hell on earth. And so you don't mess with a woman in the wrong way, because your life depends on it.
Well, that's what I mean. Why do you put her as a reason?
And see, but this woman thinks I just described a process in which they're both wrong, but the man more wrong than the woman, and she can't hear it. You heard me, didn't you? I described the pardon? Your misuse of a woman, his misuse of his wife, draws up all through the woman the horror that befalls the man, and he blames her for it. It's not her fault. Can you hear me? Yeah. She can't hear me.
But a man can do it inside his own mind without...
Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. He can still do it without the woman, but it took a woman to get it going, to get into his brain. So it's not really a woman. When a woman gets into a man's brain, and he finds that because of his relationship with women are manipulating him and controlling him, and the horror is coming, so he tries to live with that woman, but he has a companion in his brain. He's not free from women. There's one inside him that he's calling on. It's in there. It's together in there with him. She'll finish him off. That'll serve him right. Anybody want to have a little cry? Who wants to cry? Anybody want to cry? I haven't heard any woman say, and I know there's a lot of women who have been molested by their brothers and sisters, and they got that inside them. Do you know, my wife, it took 4 years for her to admit that grandfather molested her. And she took it out on me, and she guarded that secret, and she guarded it and nurture it, and project that hatred, and try to make me fall, try to make me into the grandfather. Unconsciously, she did that. I said, look, you're hiding something. She doesn't have to tell me what it is. Just the other night, she just told me. But why? What do you want to nurse that for? Why do you want to nurse that? Why do you want to hurt others? As you create your own living room and your own furniture, just furnish it with the world you came, the same furniture, same kind of men. It'd be the same kind of mother, just a bunch of brats and ruin and let your husband molest those kids because that's what you've set up your apartment to be like, your world. Why? Mystery. But finally she got it out of her system. And she's a lot better.
We protect those things we hate.
We protect it. It's what it, when we corrupt it, it's a strange thing. The corrupter has something going for him, her. He displaces who we are, and we become that. Your lottery won $2,900,000. She weighed about 300 pounds. So when the ball jumped in the slot, see, she jumped up and down for joy and jumped into the $10,000 slot. That's a reason not to get emotional. It's a true story. Now she's got depression. And she can't get out of it.
She's suing them or something?
Yeah, that's right. But you see, now, with me, my emotions are not attached to that money. If you do it, you do it. You don't, you don't. Be as mean as you want. I have to learn to deal with that meanness. I'm sure I haven't heard the end of certain meannesses done to me yet. There are, somebody may want to do something really awful to me. There are different ways, but I'll have to deal with that with the same non-resentment. I'll have to feel the pain and not the hate. And when Jesus was on the cross, he felt the pain and not the hate.
You've got a point there. You have to feel the pain. But
You've got to feel the pain and not
the hate. You've got to feel something. This is
but
what I'm feeling, the pain.
They're together.
I thought they disappeared. Everything disappeared. And automatically it just stops and someone does something to you, boom, and you forgive them, whatever, and you feel fine, but you don't. You've got to bear that pain, and this is maybe what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, you haven't...
And learn to deal with that.
You've made the pain a trauma.
Mm.
Okay. See?
Yeah.
If you can't forgive, or if you can't give up the resentment, which makes judgment, which is the same as not forgiving, all right? See, you have never learned to separate the pain from the hate. Whatever hurts you hate them.
Right.
You haven't learned, you haven't even seen that they are together. And all your life people have been hurting and you've been hating their hurt. And of course, it's not very social, polite to hit somebody every time something happens, so you stuff it until you go cuckoo. You do something, it awakens all kinds of fears and anxieties and guilts, and that drives you to get relief and drink and smoke, and you're insecure and you find love, and then love betrays you, and then you're hating again. See, that's your girlfriend. You've got to feel the hurt, but not the hate.
Right, that's the answer I was looking for.
That's it. Now, can you do
live
it?
with that hurt? Yeah, because I was expecting the hurt to go too. You see,
no, the hurt won't.
This is the kind of miracle that I was looking for. But the hurt you deal with. I think you can separate the two, but however, you've got to bear the hurt.
You've got to bear the hurt.
Deal with that. Yeah.
After all, you're a man, and we men, and of course you ladies, because to be a lady also means suffering, if only at the hands of men and mothers. We are going through life, and if life was perfect and everything went well, if I was the devil, the ultimate is to give you a paradise here on earth. I mean, you couldn't handle it because everything would have to go wrong in order to get upset and feel right. Because most of us, you see, a perfect paradise where nothing is wrong in the environment, nothing wrong in the world, you couldn't handle it, because people who have based their life on hate and resentment have something wrong to judge. Because they didn't have anything to judge, they feel a judgment on themselves. They drop a monkey wrench in the works. They can't tolerate a peaceful family situation. They have to create an argument. They have to make something go wrong. They have to have something to be upset about, because being upset is what they're made of. So what is wrong is what they're made of, not what is right. So they have to have things wrong in the world. They have to be poor. They have to live like pigs, because they couldn't stand it. You can't take. You take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. You take the people from Skid Row and put them in a nice apartment, and pretty soon there's graffiti all over the world in Skid Row. create everything into a Skid Row, you can't do it, see? So you've got to take that quality which keeps drawing it, coming back to the scene of crime. You don't realize that you're coming back to the scene of crime because if you're made of anger, you have to have something to be angry about. You see? If you're made of anger or resentment, if everything you are has come from that and grown up, and that's the you that you know is you, and there's also pride involved, it's not going to admit there's anything wrong with it. It's very hard to separate it because you have a certain pride of defensiveness involved. That's why it's so hard for me. A person like me is so hard, difficult, because it's so easy to corrupt people. It's so hard to correct them. See? Because when you corrupt people, you separate them from the ability to see that they're corrupted. They tend to side with the wrong, side with the enemy, defend against the very perceptions that could save them. See, they tend to be very defensive about their faults. So if you're defensive, how can you see? How can you be shown? You're defensive. You identify with what's wrong. So, I think you got the message. A little bit. I saw the penny drop just a wee bit.
I had an experience one time when I was driving down the freeway and I was listening to you, and all of a sudden resentment.
Towards what?
Towards you.
What did I do?
Well, I don't know what you said, but it came in, and I just put my hand on the dashboard and I says, "Sorry, fellow, I didn't want to do that," and it disappeared.
But you know what it was? I'll tell you what the resentment was about. It was probably because I was attacking
women.
Women.
Probably. I don't remember.
I'm not attacking women.
I don't remember.
I attack
what
evil.
It was. Yes, I understand.
And you identify with it. So when I shoot at evil, you think because you're so identified with it, you think I'm attacking you.
But anyway, I recognized it in an instant, which before it would have just passed over and that, BB. And
That's good though.
And I did. At that moment, I just knew that I didn't want to do that, and it just disappeared.
Have you given up resentment ever since?
Not quite.
But are you better at it?
I'm better at it.
Do you see that every time?
I am better because I am seeing it, which I didn't before.
Okay, you're better for seeing it, but you're not.
Also full of anger.
But you're better for seeing it, but you're not going to be better until you give it up.
Give it up completely. Yeah.
In other words, if you're thirsty in a desert and you're dying, and you see the oasis a mile away, but you might think to yourself, "Oh, that's just one mirage. Maybe what will happen if it really isn't the true pool of water?" So you have doubts about what's right. So when you ever see the real pool, you're still not sure of it. But as you get closer, you can feel the fresh, cool air coming from the breeze. And you are better. And that fresh air coming from the surface of the cool water in the oasis gives you the extra strength to come towards it. But, so you're better, but you're not better till you fall in the water. And take a good long drink.
You have been watching one in a series of programs recorded in Ventura, California, titled The Hypnosis of Life and Healing Seminar. Please check your local listings for the time and date of the next telecast in this series. The Foundation of Human Understanding also presents Roy Masters on a phone-in radio program broadcast on a number of stations across this country and abroad. For information...
Yes.
There's something that's been bothering me for a long time, and I think this is the only place I can talk about it. And that has to do with being born black.
Born black? So what's wrong with black?
Nothing.
It's as good a color as any.
It is, but every black person has different experiences. A lot of black people, to protect themselves, live and only associate with other black people as a way of screening out prejudice.
Yes.
And my father wasn't that kind of person. He believed that we were Americans first. And so therefore I should go out into the world and experience anything that's open to me. But the negative side of that is that when I went out into the world, because of his exposing me, then I was open then to the prejudice that exists.
Well, before you go any further, I'm born Jewish. And being born Jewish in Europe is the same as being born black in America.
Right.
All right?
That's true.
How did I get by? I mean, I just learned not to be put down. people would put me down. They thought they did. I just grew. I just grew above them. They're the bull and I'm the matador. You only grow in adversity, you know. You don't grow out of everything being perfect. Like
okay, so you have the individual spirit which has carried you, but you also have the fact that once you left Europe, you could blend into the society at large. We can never do that. I mean, we'll always be...
I don't agree with you.
No, well, I have to say it, Mr. Masters.
No, I think it's an illusion. My heritage being Jewish, and I can look back over the centuries, and we, if I can identify myself with them for a second, have nothing else but persecution. I mean, you haven't seen anything what we, them, have gone through. You can't believe how horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 million if we weren't murdered in one time.
That's right. That's
but
true.
that's only the tip of the iceberg. The centuries of persecution. They weren't allowed to have trades. They weren't allowed to do anything. They weren't allowed to own anything. I mean, how did they survive? I mean,
there's a spirit in the Jewish people that I really admire that black people as a whole do not have.
The trouble is exactly right. The black culture stinks. Forgive me.
I agree.
Does it right? It stinks. It doesn't have anything going for them. It's not the black people. It's the black attitudes. See?
Stigma.
And they walk around with a chip on their shoulder all over. Say, I'm black, so you knock it off.
Yeah. I think sometimes black people use that as an excuse not to do better for themselves.
I got into a taxi coming home from the airport one day, and there's this black gentleman driving the taxi, and I recognized where he was from is Nigeria. And the Nigerian black people are delightful. Have you ever met Nigerian people?
Yes. Yeah.
See? Nigerian people are as innocent. I communicate with them all. They write such sweet letters, dear sir. And they write these beautiful letters with great respect. And I'm always sending material free to, because we don't have a radio station over there. And every Nigerian person I've ever met is a perfect gentleman. And it really gives you a new insight.
I know what you're saying.
You know, then you know that black are human too. But the black people here in this country are very bad for the most part. Something's gone wrong and something's very sour. So you get a wrong impression. Nigeria, not every place in Africa, mind you, but Nigeria, I don't know why. I don't know why. They're very beautiful, lovely black people, and you don't notice black. You don't notice anything. You know, you're dealing with a person in there, a delight, innocence. You almost feel embarrassed that you're not as innocent as they are. See? So I'm telling you, what's wrong is with you in your idea of black is that the idea of black culture has gone sour. Something that's all.
No, I agree with that. But
and you could forget your black heritage and culture. You'd find you wouldn't have.
No, I've forgotten that. That's what I'm coming to another point. Okay, I have forgotten that. Because one thing, we became Catholic when I was 7, so that pushed us in a whole... Well, but in a way it was good because, for me personally, it was good because it took me out of the black church, quote, and it pushed me into...
You're not boogie-woogieing all over the aisles,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. But...
That's religion. That's church.
But at the same time that I had to deal with the racism of society at large, something else more deadly, I think, was creeping up at the same time, and that was I had to deal with other black people who resent me then and now for not acting like I'm more black.
See?
And so that when I'm on the street...
But that's not a black problem, because that's a white problem in a white home. If you have a normal kid who doesn't want to go to be a Catholic or a Jew, and you see the insanity around you, which is white, you have the same problem, except you don't have names of black and white attached to it.
Right, that's true. But what my problem is, I've learned pretty much how to deal with racism from white people. I mean, you know, I've just...
But racism from black people.
That's harder.
But racism is in your own home.
But it's harder for me to deal with.
No, it shouldn't be.
It is.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yes, sir. Right there. I just see him itching to say stuff.
Okay, I was a little bit hurt because I'm from Ghana, West Africa, and you talk so much about Nigeria. I think we are but yeah, close, so you're all nice, I think. But
am I right about the Black American blacks?
Well, I was going to say I've had more problem with the Black American than the white people. Okay, and I went to London before I came over here, probably trying to follow you, I'm not sure. Because I found you in Radio Caroline.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And that's out of the question. Now, what I wanted to ask was about consciousness.
Yes.
Okay. I had a gentleman talk about subconsciousness and consciousness. Okay. Now he said we have the consciousness of a human being is only 12%.
Oh yeah.
And the subconsciousness is 88%. Okay.
Who said that?
I don't know. I turned the TV. So yeah, she probably saw it too. Okay.
Who? You mean to say we only use 1/10 of our mind? Is that what they're saying? You only use 1/10 of your mind. Well, he only used 1/10 of his mind, but and he hasn't got much of a brain anyway to talk like that.
And he was saying, well, I kind of fell for it. That's why I wanted to ask you about your view about it. And he was saying that you're born with, well, the 12% consciousness, and the other 88 is where you draw your decisions from.
I don't know what the hell he's talking about, do you?
Oh, good. Okay. So what I was wondering about...
The trouble is with these so-called experts, I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Okay. So what I wanted to know was, what does, like evil, exorcism, how does it relate with... Well, now that I don't know what he was talking about, I can't even get my question.
I know, but you can't argue for him, I know. But I know the argument, and
okay.
I can give you an answer. Right. 1 second. He says we only use 10% of our mind. That's about the rough sum total of it, isn't it? You've heard that before? How many people have heard we only use 10% of the mind? And how many have heard from the same source that we are evolved animals? Yes, well, when I go on radio shows, I would say to my talk show host, I said, look, these people, I'm going to say some very important truths, basic facts, and people are going to call up very angry. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to protect me because you're my host. I can't, this is not my show, so ask them not to be rude to me. But the problem is that they will attack my personality because they can't attack my truths. So this is what so I start off by saying something very simple. For instance, they're going to attack me for saying that, when you're angry, you're wrong. And people should give up hostility as a way of dealing with life properly. The minute that happens, the phone starts to ring. I said, now remember what I told you. They're going to be angry just because I said you haven't got to be angry. Where did you get this guy? And what I said, now the host will say, well now sir, Mr. Master says you will attack his personality, not his principles. I said, not only can't they attack my principles, they don't even know what they are. Ask him what I said that made him angry. What is it? What are you attacking Mr. Masters about? I just don't like what he says. I said, well, what is it you says? Well, he says, I just don't like what he says. I bet he's got a lot of money stashed away. And I bet Mr. Master says, you can't argue with his principles, you're going to attack his personality. What exactly? Clown. Hangs the phone up. Next one. And the talk show host is sitting there. Sometimes he attacks me too. I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem. When you are, I understand what Jesus said about blessed are those who, when they revile you and persecute you and say all manner of false things for being right, righteousness. For such is the kingdom of God. It's going to happen. You're going to take up your cross and deny yourself and take up your cross. When you deny yourself, you accept truth. When you expect truth, you show it. You have a simple understanding that scares the hell out of everybody. It scares the living daylights out of everybody. You're showing them their contradiction, and they respond like wild animals. Because what they have successfully eluded in themselves, they see alive and well in you, and the only way they don't want to see, it keeps reminding them, it makes them look. Your consciousness makes them conscious. Your external conscious, you see, you're an external conscience to them. You are living. It works. It's alive and well in you. And you can't help because you're an external to them, and they're external people. They're externally motivated people. They can't help but, with your energy that you give out, is a totally different energy field from their energy field. And the energy field awakens them to their own conscience, and it drives them insane. They want to kill you. They literally want to kill you, black, white, green, or pink. Your own mother will want to kill you. Now you know what you're dealing with. You still want to go on? You want to go become one of them? All you have to do is give up anger, and you'll say, peekaboo, I'm not one of you anymore. So you want to have control, you want to have power, that's the way to do it. Safely. Especially a message for you. Okay, that's another lady.
Going back to the racial question, how does one deal with interracial relationships and marriages?
How do you do? Do you marry a white person, or does a white person marry a black person?
Or Jew and a Chinese, anybody that's not of your own race.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just I really don't know how to answer that. I've discovered that it should be more attractive to you naturally to gravitate to whatever group you came from, not being prejudiced. Because if your mother's black, you naturally want to marry a black mother. Sorry, do you remember I said if your mother's Jewish, you want a Jewish mother? It's a kind of natural to work it out that way. But if a man wants to marry a black woman, or vice versa, she will, obviously it isn't a matter of, loving the black race. So it has nothing to do with that. It's only because her mother hates blacks, and she wants to be the opposite of her mother. She wants to be unprejudiced like her mother was prejudiced. So she'll just hate her mother, and she'll be attracted to what her mother hates as the lover. So
because
it's not a matter of fun.
To me, I used to be prejudiced against that kind of thing. It made me feel that it was a certain degree of rebellion there.
You mean you were attracted to white people?
No, I'm married to a black man, but I was always prejudiced against other people doing it.
You mean prejudice other people marrying out of their race?
Yes, well, I have a brother, and he dates a white girl.
So you feel uncomfortable with that?
Yeah, I was very prejudiced about that.
See, it's very strange. Now, don't feel embarrassed about that, ladies and gentlemen. It isn't prejudice. It isn't necessarily prejudice. However God made us, He didn't make us necessary to merge. I mean, did you know that there are little rituals, little dances that animals have before they mate? Yeah. Little signs of recognition where, and do you remember if everything became everything else, there wouldn't be everything. There wouldn't be the variety. You see what I mean? And maybe there's a purpose in variety, not only amongst animals but human beings too. We don't know ultimately what the purpose is. But you take a pond, and you have two little fishes in that pond, and they look exactly alike, except one lives off the bottom and one lives off. They have both different functions. If you merge those functions, then the life in the pond won't survive. Each gets their living from doing what the other doesn't do. But if you blended those instincts, so they both did the same thing, then one of them's missing in the ecology of the pond, and the pond would stink and everything would die. So they have a little ritual to decide which of those creatures are. To you and me, you couldn't tell which fish was which, but they won't blend. They won't mate. See? Now I'm saying they probably could mate, but they don't. After all, they are fishes. And we got to be very careful. There may be a reason why we don't know. But I think you have your gut level instinct. Your gut level instinct is you're black, you marry black.
Yeah.
You're white, you marry white.
That's the way
I don't know what I did marrying an Irishman. But you might call that racial lines, but that's similar, isn't it? Similar to what I am.
Yeah, but it just seemed like to me it's a form of rebellion. And I've always had this feeling that when most black people become successful financially, instead of keeping the money within the chain of helping each other, they go outside of their race.
Well, that's another, yeah, but that's, yeah, I don't want to get into that. That could take me too far away.
Okay.
From. I think the black issue, you know, even that was stretching it a little bit, but I hope it's been helpful. I think it's a gut level feeling, almost instinct. And besides, you got enough problem in society without mixing races, the problem in America being what it is, with your children being of both worlds, so to speak. It's a big enough problem, because they won't be accepted by either one. They have a bigger problem. Yes, sir?
I had a question about, I was having a discussion with my friend last night, and he was telling me that it was natural for us to sin. And when he made that statement, I couldn't understand, since he's a Christian, he goes to church every Sunday, he reads the Bible, all of this. And he was telling me that it's natural for us to sin. I said, well, it couldn't be natural. I said, I know we are born into sin, right, but for it to be natural is for it to be the way God actually meant it for us to be in our original state of mind.
That's
and
correct.
Our original state of mind is not to sin.
That's correct.
And I said, this is what they teach you in church, that, yeah, you sin, you're a Christian, you're born into sin, so you're bound to sin. And, this is why Jesus Christ died for us, is that we might not sin anymore.
Perfectly logical.
Yeah, I just wanted to see how that was.
My sentiments exactly.
All right.
Yeah, and when there was a certain Quaker, I forget his name, but he used to go around preaching. John, yes, Fox. Right, that's his name. And whenever he says that we should be sinless, that we shouldn't sin, they would beat him senseless in England. Every time he stood up and tried to say that. What is this about people? Why? It's not such a terrible thing to say you shouldn't sin. You should be a better human being, and God wants to save you from sin. It's weird that you should be beaten senseless. Of course, Jesus was saying the same thing, and all the apostles were saying the same thing. And if they turned it around now to make Christianity more acceptable, at least you won't get beaten senseless if you say it's okay to sin. But Christ loves you. You can sin all you want, but he loves you just the way you are. Perversion of the truth.
But to say that it's natural would be like accepting.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. Well, I wonder if you got the point about the contradiction with the shrinking from the other 9/10. How could you be an evolved being? And if they have, and really the whole concept of salvation is man is a fallen being. If you're not fallen, then you don't need saving. You don't need rising. If you're evolving, you can go on evolving, and all you can do is get better and better. Because there are support groups that say, it's not your fault, you're okay, you are the way you are, it's okay to sin. And of course, meanwhile, the problems get worse, right? The human race is getting worse. The problems are getting more complicated. We have better means of killing one another, annihilating one another. We're more vicious and cruel than we've ever been, because the drugs help us to live longer, to become wronger. The longer we should, the world wasn't such a bad place when people died off at 27. But now the old buggers, they live till 70 and 80 and spread their infection. See, excuse the expression. But you see, the logic is, to make it real clear, if it's true you don't use 9/10 of your brain, you have shrunk away from the other. You're only using 1/10, you shrunk away from the 9/10. They've actually proved, without realizing it themselves, if what they say is factual, and to them it's factual, why don't they accept the fact that man is a devolved being, not an evolved being? Because they just about said it. See?
They can usually find the other 90% of their sex drive.
Oh yes, that's where it went, right?
And the question I had was about anger. Is there is there ever a right kind of anger to feel? An anger that is not a sin?
Be angry and sin not. There's a righteous anger, and that if you get rid of the resentment, you could throw the money change out of the temple and you'll have more power, and none could stand before you. When you're really, it doesn't have slow to anger. If you're very slow to, if you're slow, not resentful, quick, like a flash in the pan, you know. I have experienced that kind of anger on very rare occasions, but it gives me a strength. I don't know where it comes from. I could fight. I could feel like I was Samson with a skull of an ass, and beat the Philistines in. I don't know where it comes from. It is an incredible strength. Because it seems to take all the strength of your adversary away, because it isn't the kind of emotion which justifies, which normally they draw from to fight you back. You neutralize your enemy. It's a different energy. If it's anger, you have two evolving animals, and if he's bigger than you, he'll beat you. If it's the normal kind of resentment, that's just what the doctor ordered for that kind of beating you into the ground if you're not big enough. But if it's a strength that comes from forgiving, and they go too far, and they put out their hand to hurt your kids or something, yes, there is a righteous anger.
Yesterday you were talking about love, and you were saying that for those of us who feel that we were deprived of love from our parents, that nobody really has love to give.
Yes, I said that yesterday.
One thing I don't really understand is, it seems that you have love for your children. I mean,
I do.
So
sure, I have love for my children.
I mean, it's possible for people, I know it's not common and it's very rare, but it's possible for human beings to
do I have love for you?
Have love for other people.
Do you feel love coming from me? I don't feel any love coming from me. I honestly do not feel love for you. If I felt love, I'd feel like a hypocrite. There's something about the love you feel for people that you generate, or comes from people loving you because they want you to feel love for them back. That kind of love is selfish.
I'm talking about the right kind of love.
Yeah, the right like up, but you don't feel it. Any kind of love you feel is selfish. Anything you feel is selfish. Even sex is selfish. You get a good feeling. You go after the... Compassion? Yeah, but it's not a feeling. See, you are so used to being motivated by feelings. If you don't have a feeling, you won't do it. If someone... See, I know how to make you give money. I can make you feel sorry for me. If I went on the radio and was all bummed out, and I've just felt terrible, and here's this great man who feels terrible, and I make you feel sorry for me. Well, I could be like the beggar on the street. He comes up to you, and he has a way of putting a little pressure on you, making you feel sorry for him, and you give him $1. You don't make him any better, but those people who don't make you feel sorry for them, you never give to. You don't even notice them. The ones that you should be giving to, you probably never see. See, it's the ones who can make you have a feeling for them. Those are the ones that can generate in you a feeling for them, so that you feel good by giving. You give to the church, you give to this cause, you feel important giving. You feel love. It's not love at all. We are so dependent on feelings for our well-being and our sense of worth that we don't know what it is to have no feeling and still do the right thing with no feeling of return. So what if I give you something and didn't get a feeling? You see? If you don't get a feeling, you don't give. And you never give to certain people because they don't give you feelings. They don't. Pardon?
I mean, there's the opposite extreme to that too. I mean, someone can walk up to you and say, Can you give me $1? I want to go and have a drink, and you'll give him $1 because he's truthful. I mean, there's people at the other extreme too. I mean, that start feeling for you. Do you understand?
No.
I feel sorry for the human race in a way. Compassion.
I mean, there's various ways of. There may be two people who feel differently about the situation. One may not give you because you act in a certain way, but the other person will. It's just a matter of choice which way you give and which people are acting to your kind of stimulus.
The one that didn't give rebelled against the pressure to give. The one that did give conformed into and felt good and felt important.
You see, one will give and the other one won't.
I know, but that's not choice, but it's not the giving. They both had a feeling. One had a feeling not to give. He's rebelling. And the other one had a feeling to give, and they both did it wrong.
But the final fact still remains that you still receive in some way. You see?
You receive a feeling.
You still, no, the person that's getting still gets. The manner that he uses to get that
is not important, you say?
Is not important, no. But he's just using different ways to get out of it. But the final fact is he still puts $1 in his pocket.
But I don't look at it just for the fact that he got $1. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that there's another way of giving beyond those two ways that is far more noble, and you never fall into a trap. Respond to what you take your motivation from is what you become. It was written that Cain killed Abel. He took his motivation from the devil. He became a murderer. And Abel took his motivation from what was noble, and they were jealous. He was jealous of him, and he killed him. They're two different people, two different worlds. And those people embody the spirit of those worlds, good or evil. Don't sell yourself for anything. Don't think it's, well, it's $1. What difference does it make how you get it? It does make a difference how you get it. And only now being conscious, remember we're talking about consciousness? Only me in that moment on the telephone, my consciousness was working, knowing and... See, because that's what makes me so even. Because I'm so free. The moment of temptation passes, and I'm a free man. I'm not in that emotional world. The more I listen to my conscience, the less emotional I am. The less emotional I am, and the less I respond to the pressures of people around me. Because you see, there are two systems to which you respond. One, something tempts you to do what you shouldn't. Greed separates you from the ground of reason. So you're no longer coming. You get pulled into the water, and you're no longer standing on the firm ground. You're dealing with an alligator. You're on his turf. So now when you get pulled away, you come subject to his pressure. Now, after that, you don't have to be tempted anymore. It's not a matter of something subtle influencing you. It's a matter of responding, because you're coming under that world. You're under that system of things. You've become mortal. It's an order to which you will find yourself responding compulsively, progressively or regressively. And the more you respond, the more you sin. And the more you sin, the more you respond. You see, it's a vicious cycle. Put it this way. Even if you get to doubt yourself, let's talk about conscience for a moment. Even if it is a simple thing of somebody making you doubt what you know is right. You didn't steal anything, but you go along with them and you go out somewhere where you knew you shouldn't have gone. Nothing happens, but you knew that you shouldn't have gone, and you know you gave in against your better judgment, right? Mostly there's a consequence to pay for it, which forces you to realize it. But even if you doubt yourself, even if someone says, hey, that's black, and you know it's white, but they pressure you into saying, oh, it's okay, it's black. You'd start to doubt yourself. Begin to say, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it is black. It happens. Of course, there's more subtle things than simply black and white. Even if they make you doubt what is right, and you're separated from that conscience, you know what happens? You start to be emotional. Now they don't have to persuade you anymore. They don't have to play games with your brains anymore. They can pressure you into thinking black is black, black is white, and white is black. It's not a matter, it's pressure. You pressure into going along, and you'll respond to that pressure because you're under their system. If you're under the system, you'll respond to it. If you're not under the system, you don't respond to it. It's as simple as that. Who understands that? So you see, paradise is lost in the mind. You never want to doubt yourself. You never want to go after that carrot, even though it may seem like an easy picking and a quick way to glory, fast way to riches. Take that little advantage. Doesn't pay. Yes.
How do you pray for help? I have an emotional tie with the temptations inside of me. I mean, constantly.
What's that again?
I have an emotional tie with the things that tempt me. It's not a matter of simply observing it. I mean, I can do that a few times, and you know, when I meditate, my body gives a little jerk each time that I snap free from a thought. But there's another emotion beneath it that I'm connected to.
Well, that's progressive. It's progressive. As you grow in meditation.
Okay, how do you pray to God? Because
you don't.
I've basically given up saying, God help me, or
you
help me in Jesus' name.
No, you don't. It's correct. You don't do that.
So what do?
You just watch your thoughts and stand back from them, and you get closer to God. It's as simple as that.
Is there going to be a time when all this stuff breaks? Like the rock songs stop pulling on me, the sexual thoughts stop pulling on me?
Yes. 20 years from now. But progressively, you'll be better at it. Every day you'll be better at it, or every day you'll be worse at it. Which way you want to go?
Better.
I didn't say you get perfect. I said you become perfect. You are perfecting yourself. So don't feel like, don't have a downer just because you're not as perfect as you should be. You can only do what you can do. If you reacted, just see that you reacted. The only thing you need to do is watch that resentment. Watch for the love and the hate. You know, you ladies, you know how your husband, you give to your husband, and you give sex, your body, or whatever it is, and you give out of resentment, and see, how can I say that? There are two ways to give. There's the gift of love, which is free, and no strings attached. But there's that giving and loving that comes out of hating, out of people pressuring you. And the only way some women know how to give, some people know how to give, is to have that pressure and to have that evil there to pressure them. So that having been taken advantage of, they have created a bigger evil to judge. And judging is the bottom line. It seems to me like Jesus Christ came to bring us into a different world. But as I said, paradise was lost in the mind, and you have to find it in the mind. It's within you. You fall from within. And you make your paradise into a jungle. And it becomes your reality that you don't want to face. And we never want to face it. We never want to face it. We never want to face it. We keep rejecting reality. We never want to face it. And every time we reject reality as a means of dealing with it, it gets worse. After all, it's just a theme of rejecting reality from the very beginning and falling into temptation and being consoled by temptations. And nurtured, the nature that sprung up from temptation is nurtured by temptation.
Well, all my life I've been really messed up in a lot of conflict. And there was a time when I was really into my religion, which I'm not anymore, and I would go through crying and sobbing. The pastors, and they'd lay hands on me, and it was just total garbage. And eventually I just reached a point, the last 3 years, I just seemed to be cold and numb because I just got so sick and tired of crying.
It's an emotionally induced sorrow. It's almost like your father dies and you don't feel sad, but you feel guilty, like you did something wrong because you weren't sorry. So you work yourself up into a sorrow.
Well, they seem to be real catharses, except they kept on and on and on and on.
I mean, it doesn't solve anything. But I'm looking for something, you know, there's a right way of a catharsis and a wrong way of catharsis.
I just hate the idea of reaching down in all that pain. I was just hoping that there'd be an easier way to do it.
I know, so you're afraid then to open up. You probably do have a catharsis waiting to explode.
Yeah, I know I do, because I have memories of when I was a little kid of just screaming, and I mean just of you know, when I could have killed someone. You know, I haven't done that for a long time, but I have really conscious memories of that.
But since you've been listening to me, has it sort of settled down?
You mean this weekend or ever?
Up to now.
Yeah, it's there. I could feel it at times when...
Don't add to it. See, what I'm saying is whatever's there is whatever's here now in this room aggravating you. when you walk out, driving down the street, intimidating you, rude drivers, rude wives, rude people. Just respond to it with the emotion of innocence, because it was through anger that your innocence was lost. And continue to be angry, it just added fat to the fire. It made your life that much more morbid and more conflict. That's all. Just start taking it out of your life now. When it will come to the surface, will. You'll deal with it then. You'll deal with the memories of the past as though it was happening right now, without resenting them again. When you give up resentment in the present, I said yesterday that when you give up resentment now, in the present, don't add, like the telephone book, page upon page until it becomes a great big stack, one on top, telephone book on telephone book, weighing your life down. As you do that, you start to lighten up. You start to relive your past. You always have relived your past. Every time you react to something, it leaves a memory in you, sticks in your craw. It leaves a pattern of something in you that keeps bugging you, like a tick in your ear, okay? And every time it comes back for you to look at it, if you deal with it wrong again, it's like happening all over again. You're adding sin to sin. Yeah, I mean, see what I'm saying? Even the memory itself. I tell you, when you meditate, you can dream of your mother saying something to you in your dream, and you can forgive her in your dream. That's how deep it goes. You never stop reliving everything. You never stop. The past never stops coming before you. Little flashes. But you deal with it differently. You look at it, you see that you were resentful, but you're not resentful. But the first thing that happens is you're not resentful. Then you could see that you were resentful, but then it's finished. And when it's finished, it's finished. It isn't stuck in you. It may be a memory for a while, but it isn't stuck in your craw anymore. It's sort of like not important anymore. You went to the movies and saw that yesterday. See, it's just a memory. It's not an emotional lock. It's not an emotional tie. It's not a glob in your brain that bothers you, that you can't stuck in your ear and you can't get rid of it. And it bothers you, and it preoccupies your mind, and you hate having it. It prevents you from functioning properly, and you hate that too. And every time you hate that, you remember how much you hated your mother. It's all her fault. And when you hate her, see what I mean? It goes all right back to the original. Resentment, the personality that's built on resentment, every time you get upset, it's like a charge of energy that recharges everything that's wrong with you all back way down to the beginning. You get flashes all the way down. After a while you don't. You just get your whole energy refurbished. Yes. But you will. But you hear, that's why you're crying now, because you know I just told you a great truth.
I cry a lot.
I know, but especially when you know the truth. You don't want to be a crier like him. See, in his church, they made him cry a lot. And you think if you cry a lot, but you don't want to make God sorry for you.
I want to see.
That's very bad business. See, Lord, I'm crying. See, have pity on me. And then someone comes along and God loves you, but it's not God at all having to do with all that. That's just a little pantomime. You're getting justified by man. If you cry outwardly, you know people are going to be sorry for you. Have you ever been to a movie where everybody's crying and you start to cry? Monkey see, monkey do. Well, see, when you cry, you ever heard me on the radio program say, people crying to me? I said, knock it off, stop crying. Why are you crying? I said, the reason why you're crying is because you want me to be sorry for you. Oh, it's not true. And knock it off. Then straighten up and talk to me like a person. Whenever you start to cry, you want somebody to be sorry for you. And you want God to be sorry for you.
I want to see.
You're making yourself, look, I know you do, but let me just clarify this important thing, is that there is a godly sorrow, and there's a carnal sorrow. You could be sorry because you lost $50 at the racetrack, or you could be sorry that you went to the racetrack. Which is a better sorrow? And which one makes you cry more? The one that makes you cry more brings the kind of false redemption. There. Here's the $50, go. See what I mean? Don't bring to you human compassion. All that'll end up is supporting the wrong in you. And that'll make you even cry more because you get worse. When you get worse, you resent them more. When you resent them more, you feel like you did something wrong, and you feel like if you cry, you get it out, and then you'll get the love you're looking for. And the love is only going to encourage you to be an ass.
I went many years living my life as a deliberate failure. I mean, subconscious deliberate failure, so that people would feel sorry for me. And my mom really pushed me to be successful because I was really smart as a kid. But I haven't done it for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. But I really had an act of making people feel sorry for me.
See? Because you got addicted to that as love, as though it was some salvation or healing balm. And the church capitalized on that. You fell right into that particular thing. They played with that. See, now we don't want you to be... I don't want you crying and breaking down in front of me because I'm not going to play that game with you. I just want you to get it out and see it because maybe you got a lot of emotion in there and maybe this is the last time you're going to feel it. You just need to get it out one time in a right way.
After I say something to someone, it echoes in my mind for several, seconds or minutes afterward. It's like I'm rehearsing it.
So it's a good thing it doesn't echo in my mind, echo in my mind, echo in my mind. Good thing it doesn't echo in my mind, my mind.
It's not conscious, though. I know, but it's not conscience, right?
Well, I think it's a pridefulness. I think you're taking value from your words. It's an educated guess. My wife can remember everything she says. I don't remember anything I said. I know she's prideful. And I said to him, and he said to me, and I said to her, and he says to me, and I said, and he said. How can you remember all that? I mean, you seem like your words are so important that they're too important to lose them. You want to accumulate them. When I used to have make my first records, I don't know if you're an artist, but what it feels like to be an artist, and you want to start selling your art, you feel so possessive about your art that you don't want to sell it. It's like it's part of you. And I think maybe words are the same way. And I mean, they're so precious. Your own words are so precious. You hear them and you don't want to let them go. It's possible. That's educated guess.
Could it be from fear?
Well, why would you? You may have to remember when you tell lies. You may have to remember your words.
Oh, I see. So you say.
I don't remember because I don't lie. I don't have to remember my words. So my mind is free. It's not blocked. But when you lie, and most people live a lie, so they have to remember carefully what they say so as not to contradict or get themselves into trouble. So they have a very good storehouse of their own words. Does that make sense? So that's another reason. And of course, when you're upset, you remember your own words because they come back to haunt you. Emotionalize them. And also, there's something about words that, well, go ahead. Gentleman right there. Right here, yes.
With all respect due to my wife, I noticed that speaking of conscious, since I got married, I found myself becoming more emotional and less consciousness.
More emotional? Since you've been married, you're more emotional, less conscious?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You like that feeling of more emotional, less consciousness?
I don't know.
Well, guilty people do. You're not so guilty. So if you love God, you don't like that feeling, becoming less conscious. Mm-hmm. You feel very threatened, like you're in danger.
Frustrated.
Yeah, because you're less control.
Mm-hmm. Irritated at times.
Do you know how your wife has done it? Is that your wife sitting next to you?
Yeah.
You know how that's happened to you?
Well, I think it's come from a lot of temptation. She's tempted me to get angry a lot.
Right. And then make up sexually.
Yeah.
See?
Compassion.
Oh, yeah, she gives you love so you don't make war. She sort of takes you down a peg or two when you got your trousers sort of nicely folded over the edge of the bed. Forget the arguments. Forget to argue, don't you?
But how do you deal with that emotion?
Well, just keep your trousers on. Don't fall for that, see? Sorry to put it that way, but it's just cut and dry. In other words, stand up to your wife. So if she doesn't want to give you sex, to hell with it. So you don't give me sex. Not that important. Truth is more important than sex. Draw the line. But if you make sex more important than truth, because through sex you get comfort for what is not true inside you, consolation, which is, it's a role. You know what I mean? It's a. Well, then that's your problem. That's how you lose it. That's how you stand back and say, hey, what's going on here? Now, which is most important? Standing up to my wife and not letting her get away with this or that. So if she doesn't want to give me favors, fine. I can live without it. I won't die.
But temptation is not always dealing with sex. A lot of times like, she does things that kind of careless, like...
Temptation, irritation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the irritation awakens your sexual desires. The more angry you get... Look, hear me out very carefully with men. The sexuality of a man is not natural. It's unnaturally natural. By unnaturally natural, I mean to say that man, being a perfect being like Jesus, had conquered his reproducing being. Well, why do we reproduce? It's because our body is imperfect. Animals reproduced because they die, and there's a purpose for their carcasses for other creatures anyway, to make the variety which is their life. Okay? There's a purpose for it. You notice I didn't react to that damn glass. But you see, let me come to the point. The sexuality of a perfect man does not exist. You're not perfect, and that's how you know you're not perfect. If you were perfect, you didn't need to get married. It's very simple. You married because you were imperfect. And that's the way you would discover your imperfection, your weakness for women. See? You thought you were going to go off into the sunrise, and you found it was a sunset. And you thought you were a king going off into the sunrise, and you're a pauper going into hell. You thought you found a perfect soulmate, and you found a perfect cellmate. So you got some adjustments to make when you get into that world. But now you're married, and sex is the place where you can practice it and bring your kids into the world. And when you bring the kids into the world, then you're going to have something more than sex because children are not little dogs and cats and fleas and mice. They need instructions and teaching and discipline and love and something beyond. Something from beyond the flesh. And of course, this, as you discover this inside yourself to give to your children, you become more noble, less sexually active. Thank you.
Mr. Roy, can I say something?
Yes.
Yes, most of his irritation really is my dealing with our kids, and mostly I'm more tend like sometimes when he asks me something, I don't remember most of the things that I do. Like I'm more like in the state of unconsciousness, and my dealing with I'm kind of nervous, like, and I cannot really I cannot really know how to relate to people, and when he wants to communicate with me, I just don't know how to express myself.
And you get upset.
Yes, because
you get frustrated.
Yes, I get frustrated because he tends to frustrate me.
Well, how does he do it?
Well, especially.
Is he a bad man? Be honest.
Yes.
Is he no damn good?
Well, he correct me.
Let me ask you a question. Is he no damn good, or is something good in him?
He is good, something good in him, and
there is.
He loves God.
He loves what's right.
And yes, he loves what's right.
Is that why you want to stay with him? You wouldn't stay with him if he didn't have that quality,
That's right. That's why I stay with him, because
You recognize
I recognize that quality in him.
Very nice.
But
Very
my
nice.
frustration, my frustration is when he asks me question for the things that I done wrong. I seems like I cannot see it, especially in dealing with our children.
Such as?
Such as correction. Like I fail to sometimes to correct my children right. Well, I was not brought up myself. I don't really know how to be a mother.
You don't? Yes, you do. You just forgotten. No, you do know. You just forgot. You just need to remember.
Well,
You do know, because when you do it wrong, you feel guilty. So the right way is obviously still there inside you. Except it's not strong enough. What's stronger is the wrong way. Go ahead, though.
And when he see things that are, well, my mistakes irritate him. And
do they irritate you? Does her mistakes irritate you?
Yes.
Well, at times it does, because she said.
Yes, you see the problem. This is the problem, and I'm not saying you can solve it in 5 minutes. But you see, you're two compulsive creatures interacting to each other. She hates all men, you hate women. Your hate makes lust, her hate makes her guilt, and makes up to that lust. See how that is? You have a lust which comes out of being an imperfect man.
Because I noticed also when he got angry, and then after that angriness, we tend to make love.
Right.
And then when we make love, it seems like I noticed that when we make love, he get worse.
Right.
And when we don't make love, we get along good.
What was that again?
When we don't make love, we seems to get along better and seems to understand. But my problem is I just don't know how to communicate.
Diddly do. When you don't make love,
seems like our communication is much better.
Anybody noticed that before? Who's noticed that? That doesn't mean to say you don't have to make love and all the rest of it. You call it make love. That's a silly statement, isn't it? It's like you're inventing love or originating love. Let's go make some. Let's go make some cookies. And then we'll go make some love. See, we got the wrong words for that.
And I also what he said.
Well, but before you go any further, why do you think you get along better when you don't make love, as you call it?
Well, to me, it's a greater sense of respect.
Pardon?
To me, it seems like a greater sense of respect for when we don't make love.
Say that again. I can hear.
It seems like a deeper sense of respect.
A deeper sense of respect when you don't. That's interesting, isn't it? That you should know that without anybody telling you. But if you think making love is respect, and most men demand such respect, you got problems. Because men then demand women to give respect. Well, if you prove it, then make love with me. If you love me, do your little thing. Right? So a woman resents that, but she feels guilty and goes along with it to be loved. But she gets rewarded for being a whore. She hates herself. And her husband doesn't become a better person because by supporting his weakness for her and responding to the pressure of going along with the animal is more of an animal. And there's a darkness on the end of the tunnel. There's no spiritual light.
You have been...
My daughter is engaged for 6 years. She's made up her mind, friendship first. And she stands up for what she believes is right. And if he doesn't like it, he can take off. But he doesn't. He likes it. He likes a woman that stands up for what's right. See, and not go along with the wrong. There's something in him that likes that. He could have any woman. Handsome young man, he is handsome. Talented, he can have any woman. Okay, she's putting him through the paces. If sex is the important thing, then he won't hang around, will he? But if he loves her, and he likes that spirit in her. But most men don't like that spirit in a woman. They don't like that bright spirit. It's got to be dull. It's got to be sensual. It's got to be worshipful. It has to cater. And it has to be something wrong that comforts and nurtures that fallen mothers, that fallen nature. Something he could lose himself in. Lose herself in the warm folds of a being. There's no way to go. Yes?
Getting back to resentment and innocence, how do you regain that innocence after you've become so...
I told you. You go back the way you came. Start forgiving.
I vented so much anger toward my parents that I can't respond with innocence toward them at all.
Well, women have a problem. See, women have problems with food and men have problems with sex. See, women don't get too much feelings from sex. Mostly rage, if they do. So they have to have some sensual pleasure. So there are two pleasure centers, your mouth and you know where. You do know where. And so therefore, when your woman gets upset, the tendency is to be frustrated with, not to have pleasures from sex for some reason, but to find pleasure through eating, stuffing. Especially, here's an interesting thing you might... Men don't have problems with food so much, but women have problems with food. And I'll tell you why. Because if we go back genetically, all the way back to original sin, what was it? See? What was it that it was something to eat? And they've always said the way to a man's heart through his belly, through his mouth. So you get a person to be wrong. And what is it if a woman wants something? If you go home to mother, what's she going to do if she wants something from you? She's going to prepare your favorite meal. Of course, she's corrupted you to make that favorite. As I've always said, don't make anything favorite. If you've got a favorite anything, you're in trouble. I mean, just food's food. You just put gas in a gas tank. Why make such a big deal out of it? But if you're into food, you know, food's into you, and so's the preparer. Got it? So, but the problem with this is that when women want their own way with the children, they force them to eat. And if they don't eat, if the children rebel, mother can't put a will into the child. That she's not so much concerned with the child's health or well-being. She's more concerned with the control she has over the child through her food. This is genetic inheritance. She's not even aware she's doing it. She thinks she's concerned about the child, but she's really concerned about her own power. Child rebels, won't eat. She gets frustrated. Her husband, she starts pushing the food and, sit down, dear, it's getting cold. I'll be there in a minute, dear. Sit down, dear, it's getting cold. I sweated all day over a hot stove. Sit down, dear. I told you, to hell with it. I don't want to eat anything. So what she do? She eats it herself. You're laughing, eh? So when a woman gets frustrated, she eats. She doesn't know how to deal with men. She stuffs it into herself. She feeds the man in herself very often.
My mother hid food from me, though. She
Pardon?
addicted me to overeating, and then she was Italian and Catholic, and then when I was very, very young, I learned to escape through food. I mean, when I was in kindergarten, I remember, and then she started taking it. Then she took it away from me, though, and to the point where I was.
She made you want it more. You made it want it more.
And
but there was a resentment attached to. There was resentment that made you want it more. So every time you deny yourself, you got resentment, haven't you?
Oh, right. Well, I was so unhappy living with my family that I ran away from home when I was a year old. I mean, when I was in the first grade. And it was just by chance that I got back home. But to this day, you know, I've been trying to get all of this out in the open with her, and I've moved 3,000 miles away from her.
But you're still too overweight.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you look in the mirror, you must, you know, you can't go on like that. You're going to die. They're going to put you...
I have to find out where it originated, because I don't know.
I tell you where it is.
I haven't been able to.
I've been telling you, and you haven't listened.
And I haven't been able to.
You don't have to look in the past. You can't find it in the past. It's too far back. You can find it in the present. Because the same reactions that were in the past that brought you to this present size or present dilemma in your life, all the troubles are still being re-energized by the same reaction that made you what you are as a child. Resentment. Look for it. Seek it out. Detect it.
I see it, and I see it very clearly, and I see it coming. But what I can't do is I can't prepare myself for it.
No, you can't meditate then. You haven't meditated.
No, I've been meditating for 4 years.
But you haven't got anywhere.
Not properly, I guess. But no. I've been working on it, but I'm not getting anywhere.
It may take a little while. But you like listening to me, don't you?
Well, yes.
You know I'm telling you the truth.
Oh, yeah.
But you still haven't got to first base.
Exactly. And it's
I
been
know,
4
but
years.
I'm not worried about that. I don't care. I've got a 27-year-old son who's just beginning to realize hostility. He's a good kid. He loves his dad. He knows he's resentful, but slowly he's working it out now, and I'm patient with him. It takes a little while. Remember, you are a prideful human being. You can't give up. It's quite a decision. It's quite a commitment to give up your resentment, to burn your bridges behind you and be reborn and become a new creature. Because all your thinking, even your cleverness, is based on angry. Angry people can become very mentally active, smart, outsmart others. You become smart as a fox. It's an ego, animal evolution of thinking when you're angry. And you give up anger, you give up your smarts. A lot of things disappear. When you give up anger, you give up your talents. A lot of your talents are based upon compensation. You compensate. You compensate for understanding with intellect. You compensate for inferiority, being wrong, with being bigger than that which has wronged you. You compensate. You compensate for the loss of love with loving too much, with the artificial love. Compensate. Everything is a compensation. You may be an artist, a singer, because you need approval. You may have a beautiful voice you've developed. But just think, here you are, an opera singer. The world loves you and glorifies you. You're making $1 million a year. All of a sudden, you see that everything you are has come out of a compensation for what you're not. And you have to stay angry in order to be what you are, which, when you are, you get approval for it, which makes you sick. You sense it. What are you going to do? It's a tough thing to give up anger, because everything you are that is recognized by the world, you got the approval, you got the love, but you fell away from love, went after the wrong love, and now you're like little Tommy Tucker singing for your supper. Famous opera singer. But how did you get there? You were there when you should have been there. How are you going to give it up? Money, fame, glory. You're not happy. But anger is the basis of it. Then you say, well, if I give up angry, I give up everything I am. I won't be anything I'm angry. This angry self the world loves. This compensated self. The world is a role model for all those jerks out there who pay $25 to see me every Sunday night when I sing my opera. I can't disappoint them. I got a lot of other people who want to be opera singers too, as a result of, I can't let them down. Got all these thoughts. Now, the truth of the matter is, when you give up your resentment, you may not sing very well anymore. You may not want to. You may cancel your contract. You may go home and be a mother, and bring up some kids, and sing in the bathtub. But it releases you to be what you're meant to be, until you're released. On the other hand, you may find that being an opera singer, it has a place. Why change to be a waitress, just to be humble? You can still be an opera singer and somehow fulfill a purpose there. Maybe sing this kind of songs that make people aware. I don't know. Probably won't work, but anyway. Give the business some sort of stability and dignity that's real, not false. whatever it is. See what I'm saying?